Good morning,
Good morning.
Mickey. This is Doc. It's December 1st. Can you believe?
Wow.
Yeah, Christmas is
No.
almost here. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see our Christmas decorations start over
Oh,
there,
yeah.
right behind Doc. You can see one of our reindeer.
One of the reindeer. We can move the camera, but you want to see the other reindeer.
No, that's okay.
Okay. We're being silly.
It ruins our.
What are we going to do
Oh.
today?
Today we're going to talk about T. Colin Campbell.
Okay, but before we do that, weren't we going to talk about what we had for breakfast?
Oh, did you want to talk about that?
Well, no, you can talk about it. Mickey fixed a really great breakfast. You know, if somebody had told me that I was eating this a year ago, I would have said, "You're crazy."
Yeah.
But it really was good. It was fantastic.
It was really, really neat. Remember, I don't know if you've seen the video yet, but on YouTube, we have a new video on this week. Just put it on yesterday, and we did some wonderful vegan sausage,
Ah,
and it was absolutely delicious. And I told everybody that next week I'm going to be making some gravy and biscuits and
for all you
something
Southern
else, which I
fans, right?
forgot. But I made some cream gravy, and we put the biscuits on the. I made some biscuits and cream gravy and a.
Well, you took a sausage patty and crumbled it on top of
Mhm.
the biscuit.
And I used the sausage patties from
Yeah.
yesterday from the video, and made some wonderful
Scrambled.
sausage. Oh yes, and some tofu scramble.
Tofu scramble. So that was kind of like that's the replacement for the eggs, and then of
Yeah.
course the biscuits and sausage and gravy. I
Mhm.
mean, anybody from Texas or down south would know how good that is.
Absolutely.
And it was delicious. And I tell you, you couldn't tell there wasn't meat in there. So,
No.
by the way, I have my vegan shirt on. Can you see that? See vegan power? Whoops. Yeah, power. Yeah. It shows a weightlifter because there's a lot of guys that are in athletics now doing the triathlons and things like that, Ironman, and lifting weights that are going towards vegan. And of course, when you told me about vegan a year or two ago, I just thought about pasty people that looked really unhealthy, like they were about ready, walking.
Or people marching in the streets.
Or people marching in the
something like
streets, saying, or kooks and stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
there's some regular people like us, we're not too crazy, so.
that. Well, we.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway,
But it was a great breakfast.
The Tennessee Titans, 15 people from the Tennessee Titan team are vegan now.
Really? I did not know
Yes.
that. Okay,
Yes.
well, that's good to know. Well, then we need the Titans to get a better win-loss record here so we can brag about it.
I know.
But,
It won't look
yeah.
very good if they
Yeah.
suck. Huh?
Did you say that? My dad's side of the family's from Tennessee, so if you're from Tennessee, please don't be insulted. I'm always rooting for the University of Tennessee all the time, and
that's great.
And the Titans.
Yeah.
Now, who does Mariota play for now? Is that the Tennessee Titans?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Anyhow, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the research. What we're trying to do is help you to find research that's going to help you. And so these are some of the recommendations that we've come up with after sifting through a whole lot of websites and so forth. So today we want to focus on T. Colin Campbell.
Yes.
And by the way, his website is nutritionstudies.org. So remember the .org, not .com. And he also has lots of videos on YouTube and so forth. But he's been around a while, as have the other people that we've been talking about. We've talked about Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. John McDougall.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about T. Colin Campbell today. He, by the way, I'll give you a little bit on his background. He is a nutritional biochemist. At the time of the studies that he did, the China study and the China project, he was a professor at Cornell University. He's a professor emeritus now, and his son is a medical doctor, and together they wrote a book called The China Study. Okay, but it all began years before that. That book was first published around 2004, 2005. But back in 1983, Dr. Campbell, Dr. T. Colin Campbell, headed up a study with Oxford University in England, and also the Chinese Academy of Preventive Medicine, to do a study in China. Now, why China? Why would you pick China, do you think?
Well, because there's like 6 zillion people
6 zillion. Now you can write that number down. It's a very accurate mathematical number. As you know, Mickey is tends towards the mathematical and I'm the
Oh,
creative
yes,
side, of
yes.
course, of
That's
this
why I
team.
wear glasses to try to look smarter.
So, but what they, you're right though. There was, it gave them an opportunity. There was actually some statistical studies done in China about 10 years before that that was looking at the
The emperor asked that
yes,
to be done
yeah,
because he had cancer
right,
and he wanted other people to know what was causing it
hmm
and how to not have it. And that's why he wanted the study
yeah.
done.
Well, he started out by analyzing disease and mortality rates all over China
Mm-hmm.
and compile all these figures. So from that, the China project began 10 years later to actually look at a number of different factors in a number of communities, 65 counties actually around China, rural China primarily. And the reason for that is that in rural China, you don't see too much movement of population
Mm-hmm.
or change in diets and so forth like you would in the big
Yeah.
cities. So they took two counties, two towns randomly selected in 65 counties, and in each of the towns, they would have 50. They would take 50 families that were. They would take an adult male and an adult female, so you had a balance of female and male,
Mm-hmm.
and a total then of 6,500 people. They did blood tests, urine tests, dietary tests, lifestyle, all these things that they wanted to try to collate with the information that had started 10 years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so it's a very extensive study, and it provides, and obviously was done quite a few years ago. So we've had this information available to the medical community and everybody else for that matter for decades.
Yes.
And yet we still, I guess our key thing is that we want to try to promote food as a medicine as opposed to pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
As much as possible. I mean, sometimes, obviously, pharmaceuticals are needed, operations are
Yes.
needed, and so forth. But as we pointed out in the past, if we follow the money trail, sometimes we might be suspicious of why certain protocols are done for certain kinds of diseases.
So until doctors get caught up
Yeah,
with the research, which I don't know if that's ever going to happen,
probably not. Not in our
because
lifetime.
there's so many reasons for it not to happen. But
You're starting to sound like a kind of a fanatic.
I am.
Yeah.
I'm turning into a what do you call it? Conspiracy theorist.
Well, that was a good movie, Conspiracy Theory. I like that
it was
movie.
one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I understood that movie.
Yes.
But
Uh-oh.
but I used to not be. I used to just believe that doctors went to medical school and they know everything.
Exactly.
And so they know much more than I do. But then, of course, along came the internet, and everybody's an expert now.
Of
right?
course, including us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because, because I think what we're trying to do is get people to do the research
Right, for themselves. Yeah.
and to also participate in our discussions
Right.
of what we're just, what we're finding.
Mm-hmm.
And talk to the computer, talk to themselves, and find out what they believe. But you know what's so interesting? I sort of am part of this Forks Over Knives group.
Right.
Or was
the recipe group, right? Mm-hmm.
And because they were going to put, they have a really neat deal for people who don't know what they want to fix and how to fix it and stuff like that. And
you're talking about food now.
Yes, and I'm noticing that so many people, we were talking about food as medicine.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that a lot of these people who are on this program are realizing that.
Or comprehend exactly what they're saying.
No, and they don't really quite get it because they didn't do the research.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's true, probably.
So they didn't do any research.
Right.
They just thought, okay, this looks like a good plan. Let's try this, because everybody loves to, sort of dabble in different diets.
Yep.
And they think, oh, plant-based diet, that sounds interesting. Well, that's new, and it looks like it could be good and stuff like that. So they have no idea. And I've heard people on there. I've read these things, and it's like you want to pull your hair out because you go, oh my gosh, this is really great, but I think I need some butter and I need some more oil. And how am
Yeah,
I going to get my healthy fats?
especially on
And
olive oil. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah, which of course we're not recommending.
There's so much information out there
Yeah,
about why you shouldn't be eating any of these things that they're talking about. And if they want to add these to what they're trying to do as a plant-based diet, they're
right.
missing the whole point
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
plant-based diet. And so Colin Campbell is a real advocate
Oh yes,
of
no,
this diet
yeah,
because they have done extensive research on it and determined that it was the very best diet for people to have who have disease and who don't even know they have
right.
disease. It's a lot of people are walking around thinking, I'm feeling fine. I don't need anything.
Yeah, that would be
I can
the
go
yeah,
ahead and eat my,
yeah, yeah.
huge steak
Well, you run
and
into that
stuff,
with the younger folks, but
Mhm.
also the older folks says, "Well, I'm too old to change."
Right.
Well,
And that's 30.
yeah, well, of course, yeah. Which are
People,
we're only 35,
I've
so yeah,
heard people who are 30 going, oh, I can't change.
yeah.
I'm too old to change. I think, okay. I wonder what their prognosis is.
Well,
Just thinking,
you were telling me the other day also about the folks that are looking at these recipes on forks over knives that don't have the total picture, and they say, let's say a recipe calls for something like mushrooms.
mhm.
Oh, I can't stand it. Well, leave them out,
Yeah.
But they don't think of that, and maybe they're not really looking at, as you say, doing the research. What we're interested in is not only the prevention of disease, but also stopping a disease from advancing, and sometimes even reversing it.
Yes.
And if you will do the research, you will see. All of us have been affected in our families with cancer or diabetes or heart disease, Alzheimer's, and so forth. There is a substantial amount of good evidence, not conjecture, but evidence that nutrition plays such an important part in how our immune system works and how
Yes.
it'll impact our immune system, either strengthen it or weaken it.
Mhm.
And we're advocates. We've made decisions in the last a year or two to really delve into this for our own health. And I was such an advocate, as we mentioned before, of keto and meat. I really felt we had to have some meat in our
Yeah.
diet for the protein. But there's plenty of protein in vegetables. And in fact, we probably, as a society, at least in the United States, have too much protein in our diets. So we just want to point out some of the resources that we've found. And there is a mountain of information on Dr. Campbell's website.
Yes.
And again, let me mention it again. Yeah, nutritionstudies.org. And it's all free information, and there's data you can download. Actually, there was an update done on the study where they added another, I think it was about 4,000 people several years later after they did the first project. So they added some other counties and so forth. And then they used the computer for years to correlate all this and try to really identify the factors that impact health and disease in particular.
But let's talk about what constitutes a real research.
Yeah. Okay,
because,
that's good.
Because that word is just being thrown around
That's
all
true.
the time these days. There's a thing, books are saying, oh, I did this research.
Right.
Well, in some cases, that means I tried this. So that's the research.
That's one person, you mean?
One person,
Yeah.
and it happened like for a week or something.
So the time factor and the number of people in the research project,
Yes.
right? And
the China study was a long-term study.
It was 20 years basically.
Yeah, 20 years, right. And somebody might be great if say they're going to study you. Okay, so they're going to say,
be very interesting.
well, this will be a week study.
Okay,
that's not much of a study, is it?
Well, are you talking about WEAK or WEK?
Both.
Yeah, it is a week study in that sense.
And suppose it's like a week or maybe even a year.
Right.
I mean, somebody could be fine in a year.
Yeah.
on
Not showing
just
any.
about anything.
Yeah, no
and not
evidence
showing
of
any
any.
evidence
Yeah,
of anything
disease.
yet.
Uh-huh.
But what about 5 years?
Yeah.
What about 10 years?
Right.
That was something that I was very concerned about
Right.
when I found out I had cancer.
Yeah.
They said, oh, you need to do this, this, and this. Okay, this is an immediate solution, but
Right.
what do you do?
Long range.
Yeah, long range.
Right.
And how is this going to work? Even the medication that they wanted to give me,
Mm-hmm.
they they said, okay, you need to take this the rest of your life.
Right.
Okay, so I did some research on that
Right.
and looked up things that were already available. And it said, oh my gosh, if you take this medication,
Uh-huh.
it might take care of your breast cancer on
Uh-huh.
one side.
Mm-hmm. But the side effects.
But the side effects, in about 5 years, you could have raging cancer on the other side
Right.
that is resistant to drugs.
Well, plus, how about the
And-
possible damage to, as you were pointing out, to your organs and so forth if you go through radiation?
Right.
And chemo, of course, destroys a lot of cells. I mean, it's poison. But I
Exactly.
mean,
But if you just go through and just do what they tell you to do because it's protocol, I think you're putting yourself in harm's way.
There's no question about it.
Unless you do some research.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a person who also has somebody that you're taking care of, your husband or wife or mother, father, children, whatever.
Do your research, right?
You need to do research because each person who goes to a doctor, I think, needs an advocate. Yeah. Even though doctors are not going to, a lot of doctors are not going to be happy about that. Yeah.
Well, you were telling me about this lady that didn't have insurance and her husband was sick, went into the emergency room, and she asked a question, why this particular test, right? Because it didn't seem... And she wasn't being challenging. At least she said she wasn't. No, but the doctor was offended.
She just asked.
Yeah, and the doctor was offended. Now, had he explained the reason why, she would have been fine because later on she did get an explanation of that, but of course it was too late. Yeah. A disclaimer here too. We're not saying that radiation and chemo may not be called for in some instances. There are some cancers that respond well to that, right? But others, if you really do your research, you'll find out which ones seem to be most responsive. And some people are more responsive than others. So it depends on your own DNA and things like that. Yes. I mean, there's so many factors. The beautiful thing about the internet is that the information is there, but you do have to spend the time and energy. And what we're just trying to do is...
And you can't believe everything on the internet.
No, you cannot. Yeah. Nobody has all the answers.
That's why when you look up this research that we are suggesting here, one of the reasons, well, the main reason we're even suggesting it is because it is backed up by proof.
Evidence.
And evidence that is over a long period of time. Because these doctors that we are talking about right now are not just concerned with whether you lose 5 pounds right now. Yeah. They're concerned with what is your quality of life going to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years? Right. Are people dying much too soon before their time?
There's no question about that.
Because they are not doing the the correct things for their situation.
And we're not naive. We know that a lot of people are not going to want to change from the psychological human behavior standpoint. Human behavior change or habit change is one of the most challenging things for people.
Yeah, so, it's been really hard for me. Change is really, really hard.
It is hard for you. Yeah.
It is hard for me, and it's not quite as hard for you.
No.
Because you got to jump in with both feet.
I do, and try some. Yeah, I like to try it and see how it works.
And I've got to check it out first.
Right. So we make a pretty good team then, don't we?
But you know what? When I check it out, it doesn't mean it's just could be written in stone. Then
that's right.
Because then I have to share it with him.
And I start questioning. Yeah, I am always questioning. Yes, I do.
And so he does have a more scientific approach to things. I have more of an intuitive approach.
You do.
And I feel whether things feel right or not.
Right.
Does this sound right? What is what is the person's
Right.
word choice?
Yeah.
You know, what are they leaving out? What are they putting in?
Mhm.
And if you read some of these people's opinions, not the ones we're talking about,
Right.
but some other people's opinions who've written books just to make a buck
Yeah.
because they know that, hey, look, this is really popular right now. And what if I put this slant
Right.
on it?
Right.
What if I say that people can do anything they want to do?
Well, I'd like to
and
hear
still,
that.
Yeah. Well, everybody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of people write books that way.
Yeah.
And
Well, no,
they'll
what-
say stuff.
Yeah, let me point out something because we were
sounds
talking about
suspicious.
this earlier. That in the keto area, starting with as far as I can remember, back to Atkins
Mhm.
I did Atkins several times because it was a good way for me to, I thought, to control my weight, and it
Right.
did. I mean, it worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody. But what has happened since Atkins came along is what you're talking about. People have modified, tried to put their own little
Spin
twist
on it.
and spin on it, so they, basically, so they could say, "Hey, I've got the answer."
Right.
And that we're not saying we have the answer, but what you will see, I think, in the whole food, plant-based diet arena, you already do see people that have, well, none of this and all of this, and then there's the raw vegan,
Mhm.
which a lot of people don't think is that good for you.
Mhm.
So it seems like there's people coming out of the woodwork,
Mhm.
even now in the plant-based area,
Right.
that are trying to put a twist on it and say, "Hey, I've got all the answers." I
Mhm.
think each of us is a unique being, and we have to find out what works for us, right?
Right.
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 And so I kind of want to point that out. We don't have all the answers. All we're trying to do is suggest some of the places where you can start your research. Narrow it down a little bit, because if you go on and do a search, as you know, you get 1 billion,
Mhm.
returns in one half of a
Pages.
second. Yeah, exactly. And then you have to go wading through it. So
And there's no way you can
Right.
ever go through all that. And if you
That's true.
did, you would probably want to go to a rubber room and just kind of bounce around.
Well, your head
for a
would
while.
explode with
Oh,
all
it
the
would.
information, yeah.
It would.
And like you said, a very good point. I don't give 100% credence to any one website.
No.
I mean, I still question it, but I try to question it the way we talked about.
Mhm.
What are the motives? Is the person trying to sell something, or
Right.
how? Like you pointed out, how good is the research?
Mhm.
Dr. Edelstein, whom we've already talked about, was one of those people that spent a lot of time with his patients, following up
Mhm.
long term to find
Yes.
out what the effects were, and
Because he really, really
cared.
cared.
He really did.
Yeah.
So we recommend that you go to the T. Colin Campbell's website this
Mhm.
week. Do you have an idea who we might want to discuss next week? And there's a whole list here. I've got this list.
Yeah. Who would you like to do?
Oh, there's so many good ones. It's so hard.
Oh, Dr. Clapper is
Yeah,
interesting.
let's do Dr. Clapper next time.
Oh yes, you will really like Dr.
Yeah,
Clapper.
and he's got a lot of videos.
He has some videos. It's Klaper.
Right, and his
Dr.
website.
Michael Clapper.
His website is doctor spelled out DoctorKlaper .com. His is a
Yeah.
.com. Remember that Dr. T. Colin Campbell's is .org. Okay,
Right.
and we'll talk about a little bit about.
So
some of his
look
stuff.
up Dr. Clapper and do some video. Look at some of the videos.
Oh yeah, the videos are great.
And he tells you why he changed to a plant-based
Right.
diet.
Right. So
And
until next
Yeah.
week. It's been wonderful visiting with you. Please join us and tell them how to make comments and stuff. You're the tech rep here.
Yes. Please go to our website or go to YouTube. Both of them are spelled
What's that?
health,
Oh yeah,
healing,
healing hyphen
healing dash,
dash
second as in two,
ND
ND. Second that way. Clever, huh?
opinion.
Opinion.com.
So that would be
or just healing dash second opinion
.com or on YouTube.
on YouTube.
Yeah, without
Yes.
the .com,
Mhm.
obviously, right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, you guys have.
And we've got cooking videos, and we've got
Oh, it's some great cooking videos.
yes,
And
and we've got more of these videos, and some are more informative than others.
and some are more fun. I just
Yeah.
want to say we've been trying to discuss a name for Mickey's videos because she's If you've watched her recipe videos, they're fun. They're very entertaining. And so I was thinking like the Crazy Super Chef or something like that, because she doesn't worry about exact measurements or that type of thing, and she has a lot of fun cooking. So
Yeah, I just want to show you that it is easy to cook,
yes, it is.
and to cook this way, and it's so it's so unlimited in what you can fix.
And I love
that's
eating it.
why, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. She can help you be a super chef yourself as far as really enjoying the food you eat. So it's about 25 minutes.
That's great.
Okay, so we'll see you next week. And
We did it. It's
we did
over
it one more
30.
time.
We
Yay!